This podcast is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Use code PLAYTOWIN5 at our affiliate link down below to help support the show.
Welcome to the Play to Win podcast, where we talk about winning in cEDH. I'm Cam.
I'm Dylan.
And this week, as we're coming to the end of 2023, we have a quick little series of podcasts that we're going to do to try to figure out which card printed in 2023 is best in cEDH.
Right, this is part one. Today we're talking about which card, not a commander, which card in the 99 is the best printed in 2023. Next week will be best commander printed in 2023.
Exactly. So we're only focusing on cards that are going the 99. There's actually, surprisingly, still a couple of legendary creatures we'll talk about, funnily enough.
And there's also some cards that we're not going to talk about, maybe because they specifically only see play in one maybe not so popular deck or a niche deck or something like that. We're talking about the heavy hitters, the ones that see a decent amount of play in most decks.
Yeah, things that are going to be staples in the format moving forward, as opposed to cards that are just getting sprinkled in.
Right. Yep.
Shall we begin?
Let's shall.
All right. We're going to start off with the first set that came out this year, which is Phyrexia All Will Be One.
Right. Okay.
Do you remember this set?
Of course I remember, yes.
Oh, you're way ahead of me then. This set had a couple of heavy hitters that we'll talk about here.
Yeah, give them to me.
We'll start off with the Micrin Gardens.
Oh, sure.
Maybe we're not starting off with the heaviest of hitters. Maybe this is like a...
What does this one do again?
So this is a land. It's a sphere. It taps for a colorless mana, but it can also filter mana. So you can pay a colorless to tap it and make a mana of any color. But you can also pay X and tap it to have the Micrin Garden become a copy of a non-token artifact you control with mana value X. So this is the land that can like copy mana crypts and stuff like that. Played it in Magda a little bit this year. Saw it pop up in like a couple of other more artifact-based decks too.
I've seen it in a couple 1 and 2 color decks, but definitely not a ton. I wouldn't rate this one super high, but it's definitely a nice little extra tool that some decks get to use. But I would say overall, it's closer to an honorable mention for me, where it fits in that category of it's good in some decks, but not a ton of decks.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not starting off with a card that's going to end up in our top 10
Probably
for the
not.
year.
Yeah, probably not.
However, this is still a really cool card and a really cool tool that a lot of these lower color decks now have access to if you really need more artifacts or more ways to be able to get more mana.
Yeah, it's a good crop rotation target too, I would
Also
say.
true,
if
yeah.
you're playing crop rotation and artifact strategies, maybe this is good. If I feel like something with Kadama, I feel like if you're doing something with Kadama, this is probably good.
I already don't understand what you're doing with Kadama, so I'm sure this floats in there.
Toss this one right in there with that pot. And there's probably other bunch of decks that we're not talking about right now that utilize this card, but it's just okay. Middle of the pack, playable.
I would say like one of the best lands that came out of the year.
That
I don't
might
know
be
if it's
true.
the best land that came out of the year, but it's definitely one of them.
When did Beseiju come out? Years ago at this point, right?
Last year. That was last year that came out.
All right, that was like the best land ever, I think.
Yeah,
maybe,
I
but...
would definitely agree.
Okay.
No, there is one other land that's going to come up on this list that I think is a little bit better, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Squirrel Defector Mite is the next card here. This is a white mana for a 1/1 legendary artifact creature, Phyrexian Mite with Toxic 1, and it can't block. But you can pay a Phyrexian white mana, tap it, to choose a color and have another target creature you control gain Toxic 1 and Hexproof from that color until end of turn. It also can't be blocked by creatures of that color too, so it kind of gives them protection.
Right, yeah, so this is another Mother of Runes, closer to Giver of Runes because it can't protect itself. One of the main reasons why Mother is so good is because it can also protect itself. This card is good in the right deck. If Winota won more, I would say this card might be a little bit better. Winota just hasn't won a ton this year, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like this started off as being like a really cool card that we were seeing quite a bit in like the first quarter of the year, maybe like bleeding into the first half of the year. But then as the meta started to shift and we slowed down month after month after month, those kind of like strategies like Winota certainly started to get weaker. So
yeah, definitely. But in the deck that utilizes this is a great tool, but this is another niche one where it doesn't fit in every style of deck, kind of specifically Winota or like specifically low color white decks. As soon as you get into there's too many other things that can do this at a better rate, deflecting SWAT and stuff like that if you want to protect your creatures. And it's just, you have to be really all in on the creature aspect to use it. And a lot of decks are versatile. They're using a lot of different, not just creatures.
But this is why a lot of the mono white decks have picked this up too, because it does have a lot of extra utility that some of the other protection givers might not have.
Yeah, definitely.
That being said, though, I'm also taking it off the list for top 10 consideration. I feel like we're going to find 10 cards that are more impactful than this.
I think so.
The next card we're going to talk about then is Soulless Jailer. This is 2 mana for an artifact creature Phyrexian Golem, and it says permanent cards in graveyards can't enter the battlefield, and players can't cast non-creature spells from graveyards or exile, and it's no 4.
This one is another Winota card that at the beginning of the year I was really hyped on. I thought it did a lot. Overall, I haven't seen it quite as much. It feels like it just misses the mark on some of the things that it stops.
Because it's not as good as Grafdigger's Cage,
It's not as
right?
good. Yeah, it's just not as good as Grafdigger's Cage. I think that's the main reason. It's got 0 power too.
0 power, but 4 butt.
Yeah, that kind of stinks for attacking with Tymna. Like the Tymna decks are going to be the ones that want to use this, so that kind of sucks. Again, if Winota won more games, we'd see this card more.
Also, if Urza Saga wasn't a card, we'd probably see this more. Like, the fact that Urza Saga just goes and gets you Grafdigger's Cage is a huge upside to why you might want to play that card over this effect, even in more creature-based decks, I would say, sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's true.
So, Soulless Jailer, maybe a card we were a little bit more hype on at the beginning of the year and a little bit less now.
It tends to happen, I feel like, with CEDH and new sets. We're hyped on this stuff when it comes out, and then we play it a couple months and we go, oh, well, this is just fine. Not
it's like
really.
a little new card syndrome-y,
yeah, a little bit.
This is a sad start to the podcast. All right, let's talk about a card that I think is now like a ubiquitous card, at least. Tyvar Jubilant Brawler.
Yes,
This
definitely.
is the Planeswalker. That's 1, a black and a green. It says you may activate abilities of creatures you control as though those creatures had haste. You can +1 it to untap 1 target creature, or you can -2 it to mill 3 cards. Then you can return a creature with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Have you seen this card a lot?
I've seen it in more deck lists than I've seen it in play.
Okay.
Which I feel like happens with a lot of cards like this. Like a lot of new cards, I tend to see more in deck lists than in play. So that's a stupid sentence. That just makes sense.
Well, to be honest, I really haven't seen a lot of Tyvar. I don't know how good this card is yet. It just hasn't come up as much for me. That leads me to believe that I don't know that it's very good, because if it was, I would see it a lot more, and I feel like I don't. But maybe it's in decks that I'm just not coming up against.
I would still wager it's a very powerful thing for the strategy that it fits in like the more Hulk and Hermit Druid kind of decks.
Sure.
The problem is that those kind of decks are also falling out of favor in the meta right now. So whereas this is an incredible tool that they got this year, it's not helping them enough to get them through Rhystic Studies and Silences and shit like that.
Yeah, I think I agree. 3 mana is kind of a lot to ask for a value engine. I always just compare it to Rhystic Study, and that's kind of a hard sell. Obviously, you can't compare everything to Rhystic Study because that's the best, but your engines at 3 mana should be doing a lot, and this one maybe just doesn't do as much.
You can argue it's a little bit less mana because you can untap your mana dorks with
That's
it,
true.
which is
You're
very
right.
nice.
You know what?
And
You're right.
I really like the -2 for your Hermit Druid kind of decks, and like when if you're trying to go off with Thassa's Oracle, like a way to reanimate it or something. But we haven't seen this paired with Dockside so much, which I think is something else that we talked about when the card was printed. And I think that if this was good enough to pair with Dockside, maybe we would be considering it more highly. But
Yeah.
I just haven't seen that.
Haven't seen it.
No. We're going to talk about one more card from the set. This one kind of breaks our rule a little bit, I think, Dylan.
I think all of these cards have broken a rule
So
a little
far.
bit.
Well, we were just not going to talk about cards from Phyrexia. All will be one then.
Yeah.
So this is all will be one, actually.
Okay.
This
Oh,
is,
right, sure.
This is the namesake of the set. 3 and 2 red for an enchantment. Whenever you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, all will be one deals that much damage to target opponent, creature an opponent controls, or planeswalker an opponent controls.
Yeah, so this ended up being a combo piece with Obnixilis, right? Which is great.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a couple other weird things that it combos with. Maybe Cameron will put them on screen if he figures out what they are. I don't really remember.
I messed them up last time,
Did
so
you?
yeah, I
Okay.
did. Hopefully I won't mess them up this time.
Either way, the card is a 5 mana combo piece, and it's not Thassa's Oracle. So we know that off the gate, but it can be a 1-card win with your commander, like Obnixilis, kind of. You need a way to start it, I think, but once it gets going, it's going, and I think that's a great place to be. So it puts Obnixilis in a similar category as, like, this is going to sound strange, but I want to say Tivit, where it's
That
just
was
like,
exactly what I was thinking.
it's just like a big value commander that can kill your opponents, but also has a 1-card win condition. I think that's great. 1-card win condition because the commander is a card in itself. You always have it, so you don't count that as a card. all you need is all will be one Obnixilis and then a way to start the chain with something that's either on board or something to happen from your opponents and you'll win the game.
Which will happen.
There's obviously reasons why Tivit is a lot better, but Obnixilis having that tool makes it, I think, a deck that people can invest resources in and try to make good, because I think that makes it a cEDH deck for a while, and all will be one is pretty powerful for that.
Yeah, definitely agree. Definitely. It's funny how that card came out after All Will Be One, too.
Isn't that the set that we're talking about?
No.
What is this set that we're talking about right now?
All Will Be One. The set we're going to be talking about next is March of the Machines.
Wait, what's the name of the card?
All Will Be One?
It is in the name of it. What do you mean?
I'm saying Obnixilis was printed after Phyrexia All Will Be One.
Okay, I was like, wait, no, All Will Be One
All
was
Will Be One was printed in
One.
2022.
No, I'm sorry, that's me.
Like-
All right. Okay, sure. Okay.
That's funny. All right. Do you want to talk about March of the Machines?
I would love to.
This set has actually a lot more of a punch, even though it has one fewer card that we're going to talk about.
I
here.
remember. I'm thinking of a couple cards. So yeah, let's get into them.
What's one you're thinking of?
Phyrexian Censor is the first one that comes to my mind.
Hell yeah, Phyrexian Censor. This is 2 and a white for a 3/3 Phyrexian Wizard. It says each player can't cast more than one non-Phyrexian spell each turn, and non-Phyrexian creatures ETB tapped.
Yeah, so this one is another rule of law on a stick, which is great. That also has your opponent's creatures come in tapped, which can be relevant.
It's annoying. It's annoying to play against, at least.
Yes, it's annoying to play against, especially in the creature-based combat deck. If you're doing Tymna stuff and you want to attack and your opponent's blockers are coming in tapped, that's great for you. You can really take advantage of that tempo. This card, I have been liking it a lot in stack stacks. When I play a stack deck that has white in it, this for me has become an auto-include. Yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I haven't really played this. This is not really the kind of card that I play in decks because I'm not a stacks player, really.
Yeah.
However, that being said, I have had it played against me. It does feel like a lot of the other creature rule of laws where this is really where you want to be on a rule of law. It definitely feels a lot more impactful than like your traditional rule of law. And I do find the creature tapped ability part very annoying at the same time. Even when it's not the most relevant thing. Like, I'd much rather be able to play a creature and hold it up as a Tymna blocker, like you mentioned. And when I lose out on that advantage, it sucks.
Definitely. The only thing that holds this card back from being like number one on the list is that stack strategies are like kind of tier 2 right now. Just, you know what I mean? They're just under the top strategy. But if we get a couple more tools, that might change.
Do you remember any other cards from the set that came out? Because there's a couple others that you play.
I'm sure that I do. I don't know if I remember off the top of my head what sets they are. What do we got?
Well, the big one is Fairy Mastermind.
Oh, sure.
This is definitely, I think, going to be in the top 10 for us here.
Yeah.
A Fairy Mastermind, as I think we all know now, is the 1 in the blue 2/1 fairy that has flash and flying. And it says whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw. And for 3 in a blue, you can make each player draw.
Yeah, this is just another draw engine. A pretty great one at that. It having the 1 toughness and losing to Orcish Bow Master kind of stinks, although it can kind of work well with Orcish Bow Master. Say if you do want to activate that 4-mana ability and make some more damage with the Bow Master, that can be fun. The only issue I have is the Bow Master, the toughness thing with this card. Other than that, I think this card is a stellar include. It goes in a lot of blue decks, which are a lot of the decks of the format. I really like this one.
This to me is good, but it's like begrudgingly playable. Right.
It's
like,
just barely better than Ledger Shredder.
Because what sucks is that, like, yes, I am drawing cards, but like my opponent is also drawing cards. Like, I think it's good in conjunction with something else. Like you said, if you have Bowmaster, whenever your opponents like are doing something, you're basically getting 2 triggers every turn.
Yeah.
I don't like it when you don't have any other advantage engines, because this means that other players have their engines going. They're consistently drawing more cards than you. You can only get 1 card at max per opponent, but if you're playing this against a Rhystic Study, that's getting fed by every card that hits the stack. So it doesn't necessarily catch you up. It just kind of like can help nudge you ahead if you already are ahead technically, because if you have 2 card advantage pieces in play, you're pretty ahead.
It's definitely one that helps you a lot when you're already ahead and does not help you at all when you're behind. I think is like the main thing that you're saying is like if you're working with other pieces, if you have another Rhystic Study or another thing on your side of the board and you have this as well, this can help you go over the top.
Yeah.
But if you don't have any of that and your opponents all have better engines than you, you're gonna kind of stay in, but only just barely, and almost not even that.
I don't think it's an auto include for every blue deck. I think if you can't utilize the flash or the attacking, I wouldn't necessarily put this in, especially if like I'm worried about playing against a lot of other Bowmasters and losing my value engines. But that being said, it's hard to not want to include this in your decks now, because just having another cheap creature that can draw you a significant portion of cards is how you win games.
Yeah, definitely. For now, I think this is better than Phyrexian Censor. Out of the cards we have, I think that's the 1-2 of the list.
I think so too. Yeah, very Mastermind, Phyrexian Censor, and then I don't think any of the other ones.
The other ones might not make it, but
like
maybe
Tyvar. Maybe I have Tyvar as a maybe right now.
Okay, I don't have Tyvar very high at all.
It depends on what else we're going to talk about.
Let's talk about some other stuff.
Invasion of Ioria was in the set.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was, remember battles? We're probably going to see them a lot more in 2024.
Are we?
Since Wizards always prints 2 sets, like 2 years ahead, they don't necessarily know what if like a mechanic is going to work out.
Did battle work out? Do people like battle, you think?
I thought people like battle. It doesn't seem like it's a bad
No, yeah, I like
thing.
it.
And like, there's a lot of design space. Like, these are sieges.
I
like,
hope
we could just do regular battles that aren't sieges, and I wonder what that might look like.
I hope they do more of the battles, because I hate that there can just be like a one-off. It's just the one set, and it was just like a way to sell those packs. I hate that being the thing. But if we came back to battles, that would be a lot cooler. I'm
sure we would. Well, like even Planeswalkers, they printed 5 in Lorwyn, and then it took 2 more years before Alara came out, and they had other Planeswalkers because people hated them. They don't want to. They don't want to not do them. So
that's fair. Okay. Well, I'm excited to hopefully see some soon. But let's talk about what this one does.
So this is X and 2 green for a 6 battle.
Yeah,
what's
how many
that number?
Oh yeah,
it has
battle
6 battle
counters?
points.
Battle points.
It can't be battle PP.
It's got to say on the card. It enters the battlefield with 6 battle credits, battle coins.
Doesn't
battle life.
It doesn't say on the card. It says on the card, as a siege enters, choose an opponent to protect it. You and others can attack it. While it's defeated, exile it, then cast it transformed.
It enters with 6.
6.
Just 6.
When it enters the battlefield, search your library and or graveyard for a non-human creature with mana value X or less. Put it onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. Once you 6 it, it flips over into Zeltha Apex of Ioria, which is an 8/8 with reach, and it says for each non-human creature you control, you may have that creature assign it combat damage as though it weren't blocked.
To me, this is one of the best cards that we've talked about so far. It's one of the best cards of the year. I think this is one of the best reasons to be in green. I think this card is really good.
It's right up there with Finale of Devastation. Even though it has the non-human restriction, you wanted to find Dockside Extortionist or Thassa's Oracle anyway.
Yeah, or Seedborn Muse. Or I found that flipping it is actually not too hard in the right deck. So you can have an 8/8 with reach if the ball stalls out. That can actually be super underrated. I've clocked people for over 20 damage with this card before. That can be really helpful off of your tutor. So I like this one a lot. The flexibility is great. Green tutoring things right into the battlefield so your opponents don't know what you're getting until it's too late is really good. And I think we forget is one of the draws to green cards is that ability to like sneak creatures from your deck into play. So for me, yeah, this is one of the best cards of the year.
Or from your graveyard to play too. Like if something happens to your combo piece, you can sneak it back from that too. So I really like, search your library and or graveyard for a non-human.
Way.
Yeah, or your graveyard.
This card's awesome.
It's so fucking good.
I thought Finale was like that. I thought this was different from Finale for that reason.
No, the non-human is what makes us different from Finale.
And the plus 10.
Because Finale can go get you Grand Abolisher, but this does not allow you to do that.
It shows you how much I know, and I loved this card before.
Yeah, right? But
really
it's
good.
Still good. Like, Grand Abolisher is really the only thing that I think you're set behind on that Finale doesn't do.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, the infinite mana outlet, I guess, too.
That's pretty big difference. But you can play both. I mean, both of these cards, this and Finale, are good. You want them both.
If you're playing Finale, you definitely want Invasion, I think, too.
Definitely.
The last card from this set we're going to talk about is Drana Inlinvala. This is 1, 2 white, and a black for a 3/4 legendary creature vampire angel. This is flying and vigilance and says activated abilities of creatures your opponents control can't be activated, and it has all activated abilities of all creatures your opponents control. You can spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate those abilities.
Kind of a specific card. Doesn't see play in a ton of decks, but the decks that it does see play in, I think it's a powerhouse. That shutting off activated abilities, I've always liked that, especially on your own thing. in Blood Pod. I think this card is really strong. I search for it a lot. It's really great to combo with Collect Your Oof. You can shut your opponents off from a lot of different mana sources, and it being able to gain those activated abilities can come up. The fact that every once in a while you can tap it for a Birds of Paradise mana when you need just one more mana can be really helpful. So I like this card a lot, but it doesn't go everywhere, that's for sure.
Now, you might be saying, play to win. This is a legendary creature. Why aren't you talking about it next week? And that's because it fucking sucks as a commander.
Not
it's
good
super
as a
restrictive
commander.
as a commander.
Yeah.
Where it really shines is in the 99 of these stacks of your decks. And when you can utilize like the Thrasios ability that you're shutting off, or all of Kenrith's abilities too, like this is just the powerhouse you're looking for on your top end.
Definitely. And especially if you're pairing it with green. I know oftentimes when you're in green, you want your tutors to find win conditions, but sometimes you need to find a stacks piece to soft lock the table out, and being able to find this one to do that can be really helpful.
This is really the only card from this set that I wouldn't immediately consider for the top 10 so far.
I
would
think so far it can go on the list at the bottom of it. It'll probably get ranked out at some point. I'm not exactly sure what else we're talking about, but to me, I think it's better than the other card. I think it's the third best card that we've talked about.
I think it's the fourth best. I'd rather play Fairy Mastermind, Invasion of Ikoria, and Phyrexian Censor all over it.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right.
I think they're all going to be much more ubiquitous than this card will be, because that's what it is. It's about ubiquity.
Right.
It's about quintessentialness.
Sure. That's a good word. I think it's close to Phyrexian Censor in power level, but it being 2 colors means it's just going to see a little bit less play.
Okay, I could see that, yeah, because the effect is bonkers.
Yeah, good effect.
Stealing the abilities is bonkers.
Really good. Yeah, it stops a lot of win conditions. Really great.
We don't have any Aftermath cards to talk about, March of the Machine's Aftermath cards to talk about, but we will have some cards to talk about next week from the set.
Aftermath was it was like a mini set, right?
Yeah, there were only like 50-some cards that they printed and Samut. The new Samut is really like the only honorable mention that we'll say here, because it is seen play in Najeela.
Some Najeela lists. It's good there.
But the fact that you didn't say every Najeela list also makes me go, this is not enough for the list. So
I definitely haven't seen it in all Najeela lists, that's for sure.
So let's move past it and talk about the only thing that matters from 2023, the Lord of the Rings set.
Ah, yes. The meat, the potatoes.
Yes.
Like the Hobbits, like their meals.
Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
That's it.
100%. Let's start off with the best land of the year, in my opinion, Mount Doom.
Yeah, definitely.
This is a legendary land that lets you pay a life to make a red or a black mana. You can also pay 1 a black and a red to tap it and have it deal 1 damage to each opponent, or you can pay 5 a black and a red to tap it and sacrifice it and a legendary artifact to choose up to 2 creatures and destroy the rest, but only do that at sorcery speed.
This is good for a couple reasons. The main one being it's just like an untapped red and black source, and having another one of those when red-black is one of the best color pairings in the format, that's really good.
This is immediately better than like the Pathway. If you're playing the Pathway, take that the fuck out of your deck.
Get it out of there. This can also be good because, hey, if you're playing World Gorger for some reason, and then also for some reason your commander, your outlet isn't there, you can flicker this in and out a whole bunch of time and kill the table.
I forget about that. I'm
Sure.
sorry you're playing World Gorger, but like this is an option you have.
It's an
that
option.
Makes it better at least.
Maybe one of the cooler reasons is the things that you can do is sacrifice a Mox Opal to it to destroy a bunch of stuff. And if your land can do that, that's great. Also, things to note, Silas of Rogsai is an artifact that you can sacrifice. That's legendary to this. So that's cool.
Yeah, this has kind of been slotted into pretty much all the Rogsai lists for that reason. Yeah. It's really just a free extra way to be able to wrath the board when you're playing super grindy games.
Right. You don't do it a lot, but the fact that you have access to it is great. With every good land, if you're playing crop rotation and you can play this, that's also fantastic.
Also very true. Yeah. So Mount Doom, best land of 2023.
Definitely. Not a lot to pair it up against, but still by far.
The next card we're going to talk about is Delighted Halfling. This is a green mana for a 1/2 Halfling citizen that taps for a colorless mana, or for a mana of any color that can only be spent to cast legendary spells that now can't be countered.
I think when this card came out, I was very hot on it.
Me too.
I
was
think
like,
now I'm
every
less
green
hot.
deck is playing it, and now I'm like,
maybe not.
If I need my commander to resolve, I'm playing it. Like, it's great Natali, like more ways to make sure that my commander with an ETB effect and not a cast trigger, like a Rocco, something like that. So I guess I've played a number of decks this year that have actually utilized this card pretty nicely. However, where I don't want to see it is like my Thrasio stack, where I'd much rather have a more consistent mana dork.
I'm playing Blood Pod right now, and I'm not playing it there. It can cast my Tymna uncounterably, but there's not a lot of other legends.
No one's countering your Tymna.
No one's countering Tymna, and it's a 4-color deck. Like, I need my dorks to produce mana that is valuable. I know the 2 toughness is good with Orc Bow Master, and this card can definitely be really good in Atali and decks like you mentioned that really need to cast their commander as a win condition or part of their engine or something like that. But for like a 4-color green deck, I don't think so.
All right, our next card is Born Upon a Wind.
This one I like.
This is 1 in a blue for an instant that says you can cast spells as though they had flash. Draw a card. Oh, this turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, this turn.
This turn.
I didn't say this turn when I read it.
Just this turn. This one's great. I've liked it a lot. Every Grixis deck, I think it goes right in there. If you're playing a Thrasios deck, I think this goes right in there.
If you're playing Necropotence, this goes right in there.
Oh, yeah. I've Roxai. I've been loving it with Necro. I've been loving it just as a card in Roxai when you can like sneak in a quick Restic Study or sneak in a quick win condition over top of someone. Card seems really powerful. It gives you a lot more range to find windows, which is one of the most important things in cEDH of picking when you're allowed to win.
That's the thing. If you're only relying on the 25% of the time during the game that it's your turn to win, that closes so many doors for you. But if you have the option to win on 100% of the turns, you're just wide open for every single window that you can find.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, winning over top of somebody else after you know the table is out of resources can be a great way to do it, and this helps you do that.
Those are the most memorable games all the time. Yeah. So definitely a card that I'm considering for the top 10, Born Upon the Wind.
Absolutely.
It just continues to overperform the way that it reads. Replacing itself is also busted because you can like vamp tutor and then get the card that you need to cast at instant speed immediately after that. So that's super cool.
What is on the list so far at the bottom?
We haven't ranked any of these.
Oh, yes, we have.
So I guess we technically did. I haven't ranked them on this list yet, so I don't have them in a rank. Are we counting Mount Doom for the top 10?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Mount Doom. What else was there?
Born Upon a Wind.
Oh, that's definitely better. It's like probably somewhere here. What else?
Fairy Mastermind.
That's lower than Born, right? Oh, maybe
it's
higher.
Better than Born.
You think it's better than Born?
Fairy Mastermind's higher than Born, yeah.
Okay, fine. I'll submit to that.
Invasion of Ikoria, we said was better than Fairy Mastermind?
Better than both, I think, yeah.
I think that one's the top we said.
So far for me.
Yeah, and then Phyrexian Censor we said was better than Drana Inlinvala. I think they're at the bottom of the list right now, maybe.
Both lower than Mount Doom.
Maybe Censor's better than Mount Doom.
I don't think so.
Okay. Maybe Censor's worse than Mount Doom.
Rakdos is just better than White.
What about Delighted Halfling? Where would you put that?
I think in between Phyrexian, whatever it's Phyrexian Censor and Drana Inlinvala, somewhere in that ballpark. Lower than those? I don't know. Where do you put it? Higher than those? Lower than Mount Doom.
Lower than Mountain Doom. I'm tempted to say above Phyrexian Censor, but I think I underrate Phyrexian Censor, so I could be wrong. I'm ready to admit that I'm wrong about that.
No, I think Rule of Law has lost a little bit of its strength this year, so I think I'm okay with putting Halfling there.
Okay, cool.
Can you see the list? Without the glare. Okay. At the top we have, or at the bottom, Drana Inlinvala, then Phyrexian Censor, Delighted Halfling, Mount Doom, Born Upon a Wind, Fairy Mastermind, Invasion.
We got to figure out where Lotho, Corrupt Sheriff, is going to go on this list.
Sheriff is not the name of that one. You did that on purpose.
Shirriff.
It's not Sheriff?
Because he's from the Shire, and Shire is Shire, and then
is that really how you say that?
I don't know, but I thought that was flavorful.
How do you spell Sheriff?
Sheriff is a made-up term from Lord of the Rings.
It is.
I'm on lotr.fandom.com/wiki.
I truly just thought it was Sheriff.
Also known as the Watch, were the only form of law enforcement in the Shire. And the closest thing to form of defense or deterrent that Hobbit society possessed. Okay. So yeah, I think it is Shirriff.
Okay, cool. What does Lotho the Shirriff do?
2/1 Halfling Rogue legendary creature. Another one of these legendary creatures that's way better in the 99 because it says whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, you lose 1 life and create a treasure token.
Best card so far?
Hands down the best card we've talked about so far.
I think my hands are a little up, but I think this is the best card that we've talked about so far.
I think so too, yeah.
The only main reason is because green is not as good as it has been before. So that means Invasion of Ikoria, which is our current top, is just a little bit worse.
Even discounting how bad green is right now, I think Lotho's ability and the fact that it triggers off of your actions as well.
Oh my God,
making you mana super consistently at such a great rate. I think this just is far and above the amount of rate that any kind of invasion into a dockside could be.
Yeah, it's close. Lower, maybe lower ceiling, but much higher floor. The Invasion of Ikoria can win the game. Lotho, like right away. Lotho can't do that. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. Yeah, Lotho wins the game over a long time.
Over a long time if it stays around, but like Invasion can just get you the win condition and win right there. So it's hard.
Good point.
But I would still I want Lotho early game more than this. I want it late game, maybe less than this, but cEDH is just more early game. So
I still want it. Yeah, like I'm still gonna want a way to be able to generate consistent mana all the time too. So this is just such a powerful effect. It's so good in all of the creature decks that have really been running the format now, especially with Timna at the helm. So this is exactly what I want.
I said it for Fairy Mastermind, so I have to say it for this too. Orc Bow Master has kind of, I don't want to say controlled the format, but it plays a big part in the format. And having 1 toughness is like kind of relevant now. It's, remember the lightning bolt test in Modern? It's kind of the same way I think right now for 1 toughness is if your thing has 1 toughness, better be fucking good. And this is good enough, but that is something to think about if you think your opponent might have Orcish Bowmaster or a way to get it.
That's the thing. My current Kenrith list is built to purposefully be really good into Orcish Bowmaster. So the only cards that actually get pinged off for 1 are Bowmaster, Esper Sentinel, and Lotho. But like Lotho is just so good that it's much more worth that risk over like a Mana Dork playing like Birds of Paradise in the deck instead.
I definitely agree.
That's all I have to say. Speaking of Orcish Bowmaster, that's the next card we're going to talk about.
Finally talking about it. Holy shit, right to the top.
Shoot that way up there.
Right to top.
Top of the list, Orcish Bowmaster. 1 in a black for an Orc Archer 1/1. It has flash, and when Orcish Bowmaster ETBs, and whenever an opponent draws a card except for their first one during each of their draw steps, it deals 1 damage to any target and then amasses 1.
Yeah, dude. I mean, what can we say that hasn't been said? It's dominated like every format that it's allowed in.
We talk about it every week on the podcast.
Every single week
now. Yeah, it is running the show.
I'm pretty sure last week, I'm not sure how it'll line up, but we recently had a video of what's the best Bowmaster deck in cEDH or something like that. This card is really good. It takes over games. It creates 2020s. It can destroy a table. I've liked it a lot. It does so much for such a little mana investment.
You said there's like the Orcish Bowmaster test that cards have to pass now. Like this is such a ubiquitous card in the format now. There's no way it's not going to the top.
And I'll tell you, it's made me start to look at cards that resemble it a lot more because I want things that are close to it to kind of pile on. So things like Mayhem Devil and things like Shieldred that can also be very powerful and do similar things.
True. Those two things both do very similar and very different things than Bowmaster does.
Right, but when you pair them together, you can kind of create situations where you can really control the table, you can really control players' life totals and do a lot of damage. So I like that a lot about this card. I'm definitely looking for more cards like it.
Yeah, it really makes you realize when you pair it like that and how it's like a Shieldred and a Mayhem Devil, but like it just triggers off of something else. Like that just really shows how busted this card is, how much utility it has. Let's talk about Boromir, Warden of the Tower next.
Yeah.
This is 2 and a white for a human soldier 3/3 with vigilance. It's also legendary, and it says whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, you counter that spell. And you can sacrifice Boromir to have creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn, and the ring tempts you.
The ring tempts you is not as relevant.
That part.
I don't think that part is quite as relevant as the other part. I like that this can slow your opponents down from casting their free magic, right? Really good. But not only that, when you need to get rid of it so that your opponents can interact with each other, you can do that. I think that's great. I feel like I've said all these things kind of recently.
We just said this in last week's podcast.
Right?
Yeah,
so I'm not going to keep on
Blue
going
Farm
further.
now.
Blue Farm is the main deck that plays it. For that reason, I think it's a little bit inflated because I don't think it's quite that incredible. But when the best deck in the format plays it, I'm probably a little bit wrong.
I lost to this against a Rocco player. I just forgot that it has text on it, and I threw Mana Crypt into it, and like it feels really bad. So like this definitely is going to put in a lot of work.
Better than Invasion? Worse than Invasion.
I think it's worse than Invasion.
Better than Fairy Mastermind?
I think it's also worse than Fairy Mastermind.
Better than Born Upon a Wind.
Now, I think it's better than Born Upon a Wind, but I don't know how correct that is. I haven't actually played with Born Upon the Wind. That's one of these cards that's like, it's too new and not like obviously powerful enough that it makes me want to throw it into a deck to make my deck potentially much worse by having it in there.
Are you talking about Born Upon a Wind or
Born Upon the Wind?
Born Upon a Wind. Interesting, really. Okay, I feel Born Upon a Wind, because it's a cantrip, is kind of free-ish. So I want to include it a lot more, whereas Boromir, I got to be doing something a little bit more specific to want to include it.
I see.
We kind of just have to go on gut reaction because we haven't played against enough. Like, if we played against both these cards 30 times, I would be able to have a much better opinion. I just don't think I've gotten there yet because there's only so many games you can play.
Here's the answer I'll have to that then. I would say Born Upon a Wind is better because if I play 30 games against both of them and see both of them, I will learn how to play against Boromir a lot better than I will learn how to play against Born Upon the Wind, and Born Upon the Wind will get me a lot more than Boromir will because of the in-hand aspect versus remembering to read the fucking card on the board.
Fair.
So I would say Born Upon the Wind is better than Boromir.
I think I agree with that. And then as far as Mount Doom, I think we have Mount Doom under there. I think Boromir's better than Mount Doom.
I would say Boromir is better than Mount Doom. Even though he never gets to see Mount Doom himself, he is better than it.
That I agree. Yeah, very flavorful, or maybe not so flavorful. Let's move on.
All right. Let's talk about the climax of the podcast. The One Ring!
Yes.
The One Ring is a 4-mana legendary artifact that's indestructible, and when it enters the battlefield, if you've cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burn encounter on it, and you can tap it to put a burn encounter on it to draw a card for each burn encounter on it.
Better than Bowmaster.
Yeah, it's definitely the card of the year, in my opinion.
Like, of every format that it touched, everything about it, the fact that there's a serialized one-of version that's worth millions of dollars, the fact that it's just like a super strong card that should go in like almost every deck.
If you're not playing it, I don't know why you're not playing it.
I'm not playing it in Blood Pod because I'm on Collector Roof. What do you say?
I say cut Collector Roof and put this card in.
Fair. Yeah, maybe fair. Honestly, I'm considering it. I think heavy Collector Roof strategy is like the only reason why you wouldn't want this. That might be wrong.
Manglehorn is the new Collector Roof.
I mean, I play Mana Crypt in my Collector Roof deck, so who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. But the One Ring is definitely, I think, the strongest just because it creates so much just on its own. Bowmaster has to rely on your opponents, which is not a problem. But the One Ring can just, from within, from itself, give you resources and resources forever.
For every single deck in the cEDH format, it does.
Yes.
Like, this is not something that's only allowed in one color, and where it's not like we're trying to find commanders to splash for it. This is a colorless effect that you can play off of Mana Vaults on turn 1 and say something.
You said and. I thought you were going somewhere.
No, I wasn't going anywhere. I crashed.
One Ring is great. Let's move on.
All right. So those are all of the cards from the main set, but we do have one card from the Commander set for Lord of the Rings to talk about, which is Legolas's Quick Reflexes.
Yeah, this one is a heater. What does this one do?
Talk about card names that rhyme with themselves. This is a green mana for an instant with split second. It says untap target creature until end of turn. It gains hexproof reach. And whenever this creature becomes tapped, it deals damage equal to its power to up to 1 target creature.
This is, man, great. Just, I feel like the green mages, when they saw this, were like, holy fuck, you put that much text on a card? Like, the fact that it has split second is great. I think split second is an awesome mechanic that I would love to see a lot more of on powerful effects like this. This is really strong. The main thing that you're looking for is the hexproof. The fact that it can also be used as like kind of removal, right? Is
That's
really
the thing.
good.
My thought process is like, this is the best piece of interaction Green's gotten since Veil of Summer.
Yeah.
It's a 1 mana thing that can counter a spell and have a second effect, whether that be untapping and being able to block a flyer. So kind of get a 2-for-1 that way, get a 2-for-1 by biting a creature when you get to tap it. Like, there's just so much utility in the same way that you get out of Veil of Summer, but this one's uncounterable.
Yeah, the only main difference is this one really only affects heavy creature strategies, whereas Veil is kind of protective in a lot of different ways.
That's true. Like it helps your breach lines as opposed to like just one specific thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if this one could protect permanence or something like that, then we're really talking an incredible card.
Good point.
It's a little bit lower on my list for that reason, but still a super powerful card. I think
How are you going to have your enchantment tap to deal damage to something though?
That's true. I mean, a lot of creatures don't have the ability to tap unless, you know what I mean? So
do they?
No, a lot don't.
You can't tap them?
Like if it's just like on someone else's turn, you can't just tap it. So it's not just enchantments that can't tap.
I see what
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can, creatures can't do it sometimes.
That's true. Yeah, you can't just like,
You can't just
I'm
do
going
it.
to tap it.
Right, yeah. So you don't
Yeah.
always get that extra effect. You only kind of get it if like you protect something in your main one and they're going to kill it before you attack or like in your combat step or something like that. But powerful card, stronger than Mount Doom, but maybe weaker than Boromir is kind of my gut right there. It's
Weaker
worse
than Boromir?
Worse
Yeah,
than the
probably.
One Ring. Worse than the One Ring. Worse than Orc Bow Master.
Yeah.
Worse than Lotho.
Go down to like Fairy Mastermind. It's worse than Fairy
Invasion,
Mastermind.
Fairy Mastermind, Born Upon a Wind. I think it's beneath Born Upon a Wind.
Yeah, that's right.
So Boromir is kind of next, and I think Boromir win because it's Blue Farm, and this is
This doesn't see play in Blue Farm, and that's the best deck.
right. And there's just not a tier 1 strategy that really utilizes this. This is really great for tier 2 strategies.
Yeah.
But like I don't even know if like Nigila plays this. Is that wrong? Does Nigila play this? Maybe I'm wrong.
You play so many good cards in Nigila.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you have room for this.
Right.
Because
So
like you get to play all of the actual counter spells in Nigila, which essentially can do the same thing.
and Split Second is great, but I feel like Counterspell is better if you like. It's just being able to be a counterspell. I don't know. It's just more versatile. I think you'll be able to use it more often.
I'd rather play Veil of Summer than this in Nigila. Like
definitely.
if that's my
Oh, sure.
opportunity cost, yeah.
I think it's worse than Boromir, but I think it's
Yeah,
better than Mount Doom.
Put
Mount
it
Doom
under
is just a
Boromir.
land.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
with you. Yeah, shove it in there. All right, so we're gonna move on to Wilds of Eldraine next. We only have 2 cards we're going to talk about because this set was not very good for cEDH,
Not a
if
ton.
we remember.
Yeah, not a ton.
There was Agath the Soul Cauldron.
A lot of people love this card. I'm not
Yeah.
one of them, really.
Me
But
neither.
We just made a podcast talking about a combo utilizing it. If you like it, go check that out.
If you remember, this is the 2-mana legendary artifact that says you can spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. Creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have activated abilities of all creatures exiled to Agath the Soul Cauldron, and you can tap it to exile the card from a graveyard. And if it's a creature card, you can put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. It does too many things.
I think
honestly.
I zoned out twice during
Like,
you saying all that.
I know. Part of the things that I don't like about this card is that it does 3 different things that all work together, but all do something different and how they all work together, and it's just too much. And the setup cost to put these combos together, I think, with the exception of the podcast we did with Francisco, is just too difficult.
Yeah, I think I agree. As graveyard interaction, it's not ideal. There's much better options. As combo pieces, it's not ideal. There are better options. It's an interesting combo piece,
Yeah.
I'll give you that. But the fact that its main win with Walking Ballista can be disrupted if you just have 2 non-land spells on top of your library in a row, you have to figure out a way to reset that. And as long as once you find the land, you can leave the land, right?
It's the opposite. You need to leave the non-land.
Once you find the land, you can leave the non-land, but if you find 2 lands in a row, you're stuck.
Unless you have another way to get another +1/+1 counter. Yeah, you need to make sure you have your library set up with like an Imperial Seal or a Mystic Gold Tutor.
It's an interesting combo that I think should be looked at more, but for now, I think there are a few options that are a little bit better than it. So for that reason, it's a little bit lower.
The other thing that bugs me is like when people will say, well, you can give creatures the Ranger Captain of Eos ability. Yeah, you can, but if someone activated Ranger Captain, it's in the graveyard, you're dead. You fucking lost that game, and it's not gonna matter.
Well,
like, even if you go and try to do it in response, what's the point? Because now you don't have that ability anymore, so the utility on it was just countering a Ranger Captain ability, and you lose out on a creature, too. You have to sacrifice your own creature to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that is good if an opponent... It basically stops your opponents from using Ranger Captain during their breach turn to win. It stops that one line, because if they Ranger, you then Ranger, and then they can't go through with their breach line after that, so they can't win anymore. So, like, it does one very specific thing, but, like, it doesn't do anything against Silence or Grand Abolisher or counter spells or anything like that. It does something against one very specific version of a line, which is very, very niche.
Unless I'm comboing with it 100% of the time, I would rather have some other form of graveyard hate.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it be Dothy Voidwalker or even like Rest in Peace.
Grafdigger's Cage, something.
Something that's just better than this.
Yeah.
Don't put it on the list because it's not being considered for the top 10.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You think it's worse than Delighted Halfling?
Yeah, I think it's worse than
Worse
Delighted
than
Halfling.
Phyrexian Censor.
Yeah.
Worse than Inlinvala?
Yeah.
No, it's gone.
Beseech the Mirror, though, I think is going to go on this list somewhere.
This one's good.
This one is really good. This is 1 and 3 black for a sorcery with Bargain, which means you can sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or a token as you cast the spell. It says search your library for a card, exile it face down, then shuffle. If this spell was bargained, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost if that spell's mana value is 4 or less. Put the card exiled into your hand if it wasn't cast this way.
Couple things to note. Any spell. You can find anything that's 4 or less, you can put it right on the stack. That means a Thassa's Oracle or a Demonic Consultation.
Correct.
Can you say that again?
Correct.
Sorry, that was really weird. I had like a weird echo in my ear.
Oh, that's
and that
crazy.
was ringing. That was so bizarre. I'm so sorry. That was really bizarre.
That's quite all right.
I just heard like it sounded like you were talking in a radio over here too. What the hell is that?
Oh, really?
Sorry, what were we talking about?
I don't even remember. Beseech the Mirror.
Beseech
you can
the
get
Mirror.
you
Yeah.
can get Thassa's Oracle or Demonic Consultation. You just said.
Yeah, which is great. You can get either part of the combo and put it right on the stack, or you can put it right in your hand if there is a Drenith Magistrate out or something like that that's stopping casting you from exile. The issues that I have found is that triple black cost for a tutor is a kind of real cost.
It's a real cost.
That has been a little bit more difficult than I've wanted to be, and finding something to sacrifice that's like a specifically a token or an enchantment, right? Token or enchantment, is that what it is?
Artifact.
Or an artifact, any artifact. There are options. You have a decent amount of them, but not always. Sometimes you don't. And when it's bad, this card can be pretty bad. I still think it's powerful.
If I'm playing like Tevish Crom, stocks go way up for it. Like if I have ways to in my command zone to consistently make artifacts or tokens that I'm going to be able to sacrifice to this, I want this so much more.
Definitely. I hard agree on that. Yeah.
Yes.
And Tivit, I think it's great too, because Tivit can make the treasures and the sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly. However, if I don't have that in my command zone, I'm looking at this a lot less.
I still like it in Roxai, mainly because
Your
Roxai.
commander?
Roxai. Well, no, it's not a creature. You can't sack a creature, right?
You can sacrifice an artifact.
I can sacrifice Silas, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. But mainly just because tutors are so good in that deck, you can do so much off of one card. Finding an Underworld Breach for 4 mana can just be more than enough to win the game sometimes. So I think it's fine there, but I agree with what you said that you more often than not you want your commander to help with the rest of it.
Not an auto include, but definitely I think one of the better cards that we saw from the year.
Better than Delighted Halfling.
Definitely.
Compared to Mount Doom?
I would say it's better than Mount Doom, better than Boromir, I would say.
So better than Legacy also.
I would say better than Legolas's quick reflexes.
Better than Born Upon a Win?
I
feel like it's right around here.
think it's going to be right around here too, because what's better than Born Upon a Wind?
Fairy Mastermind.
I think that it is worse than Fairy Mastermind, definitely. And it's probably worse than that other card, Born Upon a Wind.
It's so close. I think it's better. Beseech the Mirror can win you the game from nothing. I make this comparison a lot where Born Upon a Wind needs something else. You need to pair it with something else. Beseech can just go find you. I mean, you do need something. You need an artifact or something to sacrifice, whatever, but that can be a little bit easier to just have than exactly the one specific thing you need with Born to win.
And the floor for Born is incredibly low.
It's a 2-minute cantrip. Bullshit.
Cycler is just so bad. But the ceiling is like higher than almost anything else.
Beseech the Mirror's floor is Diabolic Tutor, which is also pretty bad.
That's also pretty low, but
it's still a tutor.
Probably
at the end of the game, it's still a tutor.
Honestly, it's still a tutor. Yeah,
I'm gonna put it right below Fairy Mastermind.
Honestly, yeah. Put it below Fairy Mastermind and above Born Upon the Wind. Yeah, because I honestly, me personally, would know the power of Beseech a lot more than I personally know the power of Born. Yeah. I personally would play Beseech in a lot more decks before I would play Born.
I think that's probably right.
Cool. All right, that sounds good.
Moving on.
Well, yeah, that's it for Wilds of Eldraine. We're gonna move into the Doctor Who set. And we're just going to talk about Flesh Duplicate real quick.
Sure.
This is the new clone that we got this year. This is 2 blue for a Shapeshifter Rebel. You may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it gains Vanishing 3 if that creature doesn't have Vanishing.
That's it.
What creatures are we finding that have vanishing?
Oh, yeah, none. I mean, Dothi Voidwalker has Shadow, and it talks about other Shadow creatures. I guess other copies of this card, maybe.
Good point. Good point. Yeah.
This one's great.
This one is really good. Yeah, this one is continuing to surprise me with how good it is, and like keep like reminding myself that you can bounce this, reset it, and like reset the vanishing counters quite a bit too. I think that's some pretty nice utility that the other ones don't let you do as easily.
2-mana clones are just really good, even if they have downside. They're just really good. Extra dock sides, extra stacks pieces, whatever, combo pieces, extra whatever your heart desires. It's just clones in a 99 singleton format. Clones are really good, I think. Doubling up on creatures of the same type, of the same thing, can be really powerful. So I like this card a lot.
Yeah, clones are gaining a lot of popularity. And I think that if we're going to keep getting more powerful ones like this, that's only going to continue to happen.
Better than Mount Doom.
Better than Mount Doom.
Better than Legolas's.
Yeah, better than Legolas's quick reflexes.
Better than Boromir.
Better than Boromir. Yeah, better than Boromir.
Better than Born Upon a Win?
No, not better than Born Upon a Win.
Just under Born Upon a Win.
Yeah, because if I'm being honest, I'm still going to lean towards Phantasmal Image more because I don't have to pay blue for that.
Yeah, that's true. The blue is a real cost.
And most of the time, I really want an ETB trigger from a dock side off of a clone more than I want, like, oh, I happen to be playing against Kinnan and have the opportunity to get something that Kinnan already has that's really good.
What do you mean?
If I'm trying to get a longer term value engine cloned on my side of the board, someone else already has that value engine and has had it out for longer than I have, so I'm still behind. So for me, I prefer to use clones on super powerful ETB abilities that I want, like a Gilded Drake or a Dockside or someone else's Thassa's Oracle. I'd much rather get like the quick burst of power out of it as opposed to long term. So even though the vanishing means that I kind of like that, I like the easier to cast cost for Phantasmal Image for its fragility more.
Sure. Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. Also, 3 turns is a fucking eternity. Vanishing 3, like 3 turns is still a really fucking long time.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, that's a lot.
It's just a round.
You don't need more time than that. Yeah, like it's fine. What's the name of this card again?
Flesh Duplicate.
Flesh Duplicate. Okay, Flesh Duplicate is on the list.
We have one final set that we're going to talk about, and I don't even really know how much of this we can be talking about because these are all super new cards.
Yeah.
But this is the new Lost Caverns of Ixalan set. We've talked about some of these cards already. We have Dauntless Dismantler first.
I've loved it so far. This one, yeah, what does this one do?
This is 1 and a white for an human artificer that says artifacts your opponent's control enter the battlefield tapped. It says XX and a white to sacrifice Dauntless Dismantler to destroy each artifact with mana value X. And it's a 1/4.
I've loved this card. Being able to get rid of my own Chalice to the Void when someone you had free interaction and were looking to blow your Pactum negation on something. I was like, great, yeah, my Chalice gone, out of here. Spend your Pactum negation. That's been really great. I like this card a lot so far.
Yeah, just like Boromir, if you have a stacks piece that you can leverage to get out of the way when you need it to, it's just so much more powerful and helping you stay alive really in the long game.
I think this card is pretty close to Boromir. I think for me personally, I like it more than Boromir just for my playstyle, but I think Boromir might be a little bit more of a powerful card.
Honestly, I think the effect and the amount of things that Dauntless Dismantler stops, even like combo wise, like preventing dockside loops from going off while it's in play, makes this better than Boromir, I would say.
I agree with you. So if we're both on that train, let's lock that in. But it's worse than Flesh Duplicate, right?
It's probably worse than Flesh Duplicate.
Yeah, I think from my play style, I like Dauntless more just because I'm with you. I'd rather play Phantasmal Image and even Phyrexian Metamorph because Metamorph can copy the One Ring and I don't think Flesh Duplicate can.
No, it's just creature.
So it's for me, this is the 3rd best clone that we have in cEDH right now. Flesh Duplicate, which is I just don't often go to the 3rd option unless I'm in something specific. You know what I mean?
Yeah, me too. And a lot of times I don't even go to that 2nd option half the time either.
So I'm totally with you. I think this card is better than Boromir, but worse than Flesh Duplicate? Did we decide? Or did I just convince myself it's better than Flesh Duplicate? It really sounded
like you don't like Flesh Duplicate from that.
Yeah, I think I did.
I think in terms of how many decks want the effect of the clone is going to make Flesh Duplicate higher on the list as opposed to how many decks want Dauntless Dismantler. Like if you are looking to slow the game down, or if you're a Timna deck that can draw cards with this, like, yeah, you want to lean into Dauntless Dismantler, but Is it opponents?
Yeah, it's just opponents.
Oh, shit. Nah, maybe this should be higher than Flesh Duplicate.
I'm putting it higher.
Yeah, because you know what?
I like it more.
In
And
decks,
it's my fucking list.
in blue-white decks, I'm going to Dauntless Dismantler over Flesh Duplicate now because I have Phantasmal Image, like you said.
Totally agree. Let's lock it in. Better than Flesh Duplicate.
Tashana's Tidebinder is the next.
But still worse than Born Upon a Win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Tashana's Tidebinder is 2 and a blue for a creature merfolk wizard. It's a 3/2 with flash, and when it enters the battlefield, counter up to 1 target activated or triggered ability. If an ability of an artifact, creature, or planeswalker is countered this way, that permanent loses all abilities for as long as this card remains on the battlefield.
Good against a lot of the cards that we talked about today. Good against the One Ring. Good against Orc Bow Master.
That being said, though, this is a 3 mana effect that you have to hold up, which is a lot of mana.
3 mana is just a lot. If this was 2 mana, holy shit, we'd be talking about a real great card. If it was 2 mana, this would go near the top. But the difference between 2 and 3 is huge.
It's quite a bit, yeah. And we've talked our mouths off about how much we are not fans of countering only activated abilities, when in the same color you have access to spells that counter things on the stack, which are much more universal, which you should be doing instead.
Right, yeah. I would much rather just counter the One Ring than counter the activation and have them not be able to use it. Like,
exactly. They can't use it if it's in their graveyard
right,
either.
Yeah. So this is just like worse than counter spells. It does different stuff, I'll give you that. But at 3 mana, just cEDH, the cards are too strong. So I think this kind of falls down.
Yeah.
But in the right 2-color deck, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure,
Like
absolutely.
this card doesn't let you go Rhystic Study and then I can hold up. I can like draw into free interaction. Then this is my interaction, and now I can't even draw extra cards.
Counters Rhystic Study abilities though, but again, I wish I could just counter the Rhystic Study. The issue is, it doesn't push my game plan ahead. It doesn't give me advantage. It stops your advantage, which is great, but it attacking you and dealing damage, that's not enough in cEDH. So it being like a beater or something like that just isn't relevant.
And it's like, it's only temporary too. Like they can remove it.
Just kill it.
Yeah, you just kill it. And then now you get your thing back too. Whereas if you had a real counter spell, it's just going to be in the graveyard.
Yeah. I don't think this card is on the top 10.
Stinker, get it out of here.
11.
I put it on the list because we were going to get yelled at if it wasn't on the list.
We would surely get comments, and we still will telling us we're wrong. That's fine.
We're wrong.
You can think we're wrong. I don't think the card's very good.
I think you're wrong. And then the last card we're going to talk about is from the Commander set for the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. This is Charismatic Conqueror.
This one's okay. Yeah, go.
This is 1 and a white for a vampire soldier, 2/2 with vigilance. It says whenever an artifact or creature enters the battlefield untapped and under an opponent's control, they may tap that permanent. If they don't, you create a 1/1 vampire with lifelink token.
I haven't seen this one yet. Just came out, and I just haven't seen it play
Honestly,
yet.
neither have I, but I've heard a lot of chitty chatter about it.
I've heard a lot of chatter. I think in regular Commander, it's much better than cEDH. I think when there's 3 in play, there will be an infinite loop that will draw out the game. And what the fuck do we do with that? I don't know if you saw that on Twitter yet.
Yeah,
but
I did see that, yeah.
So that's kind of, I don't know, weird. But the card is certainly good, I think. Engine and the cans are great. I just... there's a lot of good cards. Like, what the fuck do you cut for it? I don't know. But it's definitely an interesting one that I want to test out a lot more in 2024. I'm just not sure how strong it is yet.
Yeah, all the decks that got depowered in 2023 because of the direction the meta went is where this card fits.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot harder to find it in the wild. It's going to be a lot harder to find it in tournaments. I see that.
We began the podcast talking about Winota. Now we're talking about Winota again.
We came full circle.
Full circle. If Winota won more games, this card would be much better, I think, because this is a great Winota card. Obviously, you can make things that will trigger Winota more, and it just is exactly what Winota wants. But Winota's not super hot right now, so maybe it will. Maybe in 2024, we've talked about a lot of good cards that Winota got. Maybe Winota will make another push, but we'll see.
We're in the cycle where the format is slowing down, which means that eventually the next thing that's going to happen is the format's going to get very quick again, and we'll go through the cycle. Eventually, stacks will be good, and then we'll find out.
But until then, we have 10 cards. Should we talk about the top 10 cards in 2023 that are in the 99?
Dylan, what is our top 10?
Let's start things off with Boromir.
Wow.
What is it?
Warden of the Tower?
Do you want to say the full name after I say it, or I'll just go through it and that's it?
We'll swap it up. I'll say something after you say every card now.
So our number 10 is Boromir.
Warden of the Tower.
Number 9 is Flesh Duplicate.
Oh, okay.
Number 8 is Dauntless Dismantler.
That sounds right. Okay.
Number 7 is Born Upon a Wind.
That sounds right, too.
Number 6 is Beseech the Mirror.
There were a lot of good cards this year, if that's this low. Okay.
Number 5 is Fairy Mastermind.
Wow, that got 5.
Number 4 is Invasion of Ikoria.
Yeah.
Number 3 is Lotho the Sheriff.
Yeah, the Sheriff. Yeah, that's obviously way better than everything else so far.
It is, right? It still is.
Obviously, yeah, way better.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic.
No,
right now.
I'm like honest.
Beseech is the only one I'm questioning right now. Number 2 is Orcish Bow Master.
Wait a minute, what's your problem with
I
Beseech?
feel like it maybe should be higher than Fairy. No, it's fine. Leave it where it is.
No, Fairy should be higher, I think.
Number 2 is Orcish Bow Master.
Yeah, that's also correct.
And number 1 is the One Ring.
Another list.
Another card.
Another list.
Another list.
We have completed.
Those are the best cards in 2023 for the 99 in CEDH.
What was your favorite card that you saw in 2023?
The One Ring.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support us directly, you can do so on Patreon, like our $100 patrons.
Devlin, Mark Cirillo, Alan but in lowercase, Zachary Nelson, she doesn't even go here, Joey Aaron, SoCal Acura, Stormageddon, Luke Cook, AJ Albosabi, Demon of Rosbreeze, Uncle Butts, Kawaja A. Hamid, Lauren Connell, and Baby G-Bus.
If you want to pick up any of our merch, you can do that at playtowinmtg.com.
Big shout out to Dragon Shield. Thank you so much for supporting the show. When you use our affiliate link down below, make sure you use code PLAYTOWIN5 to get 5% off your order.
You can follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram for more content.
Thank you so much for watching or listening.
Goodbye.
Or listening.
Tyler H., Tyler Heckenliable, Malcraft, Driving Crooner, Jabaha, Dalton Boteet, Kadanis, Lutri's Dad, Mitchell Shepard, Justin Mansolo, Pedro, Jacob Depp, Michael Ballou, Jan Wild, Fang, Thomas Bueno, and David Nelson.
Or listening.
Or listening.
Is that it?
Yeah.